This is the network service of the NTA.
A beautiful morning it is to you, our viewers out there. It's time for that jolly ride which we bring to you every Sunday morning. What am I talking about? Morning Ride, which comes to you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, every Sunday morning from 10 to 11. Remember what I told you on this program. This 1 hour is a qualitative one because that is what we intend for it to be. I am Ololade Adeniji, and I'm going to be taking you through the 60 minutes. You can't afford to touch the dial because, well, everything and anything that makes us who we are and truly Nigerians is what we shall be, all of these things are what we shall be looking at today on the show. We shall bring you some bit of music, some bit of comedy, and we'll also talk about our rights as consumers, our rights as human beings, our rights as, workers, staff of organizations. What rights do we have? Those are the things we shall be looking at. We'll also delve slightly into the political realm this morning. So you see that you cannot afford to move away from this show, because if you move away, you just might have lost something which will help to enrich your life as a human being and, of course, as a Nigerian. Like I said earlier, my name is Ololade Adeniji, and we're going to have a jolly ride this morning. To set the program in the right tone, let's take this musical break. Yes, it is a musical titled Let Me Hold You by Alejo. And of course, the program is still Morning Ride, which comes to you on the network service of the NTA. It's time for my first set of guests this morning. And, well, how do I begin? Okay, let's do it this way. When I'm around certain kinds of people, well, even for you viewers, because it's a word of advice, when you're around certain kinds of people, you must be extra careful. And who are these kind of people that I'm talking about? Lawyers. Because any and everything you say could be used against you in the court of law. So when you're around them, and when I am also around them, I tend to be extra careful with what comes out of my mouth, what I do, where I do it, and the likes. And of course, yes, it gives you an idea into the kind of people I shall be talking to this morning on the show. I told you earlier on at the beginning of the program that we're going to be talking about our rights as human beings, our rights as consumers, our rights as, staff of organizations and all of that. So, all of this, I have two guests with me in the studios. One of them is a particularly interesting person, because we seem to have, we actually have something in common. So I'll come back to the person with whom I have something in common, but I'll start from the left. Yes, I have barrister Etta Ojong. Good morning, Etta. Good morning. How do you do?
I'm doing very good.
Good.
Thank you.
Now, seated right beside him, I have, I said we have something in common, yes, because it actually happens that we share the same alma mater.
Great.
Yes, we are. He is a product of the higher institution which produced my very self, talking about the great University of Nigeria, Nsukka.
Great.
So, well, I have a lion with me in the studios. He is barrister Promise Asikpo. He is a past president of the Lagos Core Legal Aid Scheme.
Good morning, viewers.
Great lion.
Great.
Okay, so that
The
is
lion
how.
spirit.
Yes, that's how we grade ourselves. When lions and lionesses come across one another, that is how we roar to grade ourselves. This morning we're talking basically, we're looking at various facets, but basically it all boils down to our rights.
Okay.
Yes, but let me start with this. The Lagos Core Legal Aid Scheme. What is it all about? Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's a scheme of lawyers serving under the Nigerian Youth Service Corps in Lagos State. We embark on pro bono legal services to indigent accused persons on awaiting trial in prison custodies. So, and also civil responsibilities in advocating for the rights of less privileged persons and also upholding the cause of justice in Lagos and in the country.
Okay. Now, when you say pro bono, because I want you to, you guys use a lot of legal terms, which the average person there doesn't understand. I mean, I understand a bit of it, but not much. When you say pro bono, what do you mean?
It's actually free of charge. Okay, there is no condition attached to it. There's no form of consideration. Okay, so we actually do this to people who have an indigent position, like of a pecunious position. They don't have funds. Like in the Nigerian standard, you could say people who do not earn beyond 10,000 in a month. People that ordinarily, due to their impecunious position, they cannot afford the services of lawyers. Okay, they only in the Lagos Corp scheme, the only criteria we place is that the person is supposed to be responsible. That's the person that we want to represent, supposed to be responsible, okay, responsible citizen. Two, the person strongly believes that he did not indulge in criminality, because you don't want to use this genuine means to aid criminals. So the person must not have involved in criminality, and there should be justifiable reasons to defend the person.
Etta,
yes.
Sorry, I hope I can refer to you as that.
Yeah.
When you say the person must be responsible, it is said that, one is not, an accused is not a criminal until proven guilty.
Yeah.
An armed robber could claim that he is not guilty and could claim to be a responsible person. How do you draw the line there?
A simple thing there is that, every criminal has a future, really. You can't just really point accusing fingers on someone. You must have concrete evidence to prove your facts beyond reasonable doubt. And you find that in prisons, most of the accused persons awaiting trial are actually there for little or no offenses, due to our excitement of our police officers, So they just carry these people, cram them, and take them and put them in detention. Actually, there are a lot of them that are innocent, that have no case to answer before the court, and so the legal aid corp lawyer scheme is there to meet the needs of these people. Most of them are unfairly treated, so we are there to bridge the gap, to make sure that these occurrences are mitigated and also to put an end to it.
Do you go to the prisons, or how do you get across to this people?
Yeah, we actually carry out routine prison interviews.
Okay.
Like the one we just concluded recently was that of the Ikoyi prisons, where I and my partner, we handled a case involving 35 accused persons.
Okay.
The interesting thing about this was the fact that these persons were actually arrested. They were raided by the police. It was a joint task force. They were at the Obalende bus stop. About 35 of them, and they were charged. They were molested, taken to police station, all the ill treatment, and finally to the Ikoyi prisons. And they were charged just for stealing, illegal assault, and for roaming. And under the law, as it is in Nigeria, roaming is no longer an offense. There were no substantial case against my clients. There were not even witnesses that said, okay, we saw these persons when they committed this offense. But they were in prison custody for more than a month. When we did the interview, we took it upon ourselves to follow up the case to the final conclusion. And good enough, we embarked on the representation in court. And finally, we succeeded in obtaining their discharge. We even have a ruling to that effect.
Fantastic.
And today, those people are free.
They're walking free.
They are walking free. Now, that goes to show, I must really appreciate the duties of the police. The police, they are doing a good job in Nigeria, but we must also frown on the unscrupulous behaviors and the ambitious positions of most of the police officers who engage in these illegal acts. Because just recently, when I finished from a presentation, a radio sensitization presentation at the Nigeria Info at the Temian Crescent, Victoria Island, one of them actually saw me. I didn't even recognize him. He saw me, was so happy. The guy even carried me up and he was praising me.
Wow.
He told everybody there that we saved his life, that he would have been killed in the prison, but for the efforts that we put in.
Wow.
So I was impressed. So that goes to show that the sad thing about this, I now remembered the problems, the things that the other prisoners are facing, because there are no proper systems in place to actually help these people out. So we take it as a responsibility to help, to assist, and to get these people free.
Okay, when you say you take it up as a responsibility, while assisting them, to gain their freedom and all of that, is there any way of seeking redress as well? Etta?
Yes, The Constitution also provides for legal aid, and fortunately we have the Legal Aid Council of Nigeria, which we work directly under, because we go to them and they give us such cases matters in court for us to. So we seek redress actually, but the challenging thing there is that sometimes it's, since we are on the platform where we call members and the rest, and funds were also a problem for us to actualize, but everything moves on pretty well, because the system of justice is not cumbersome, because like you said, most of these cases are just trivial issues.
So which can be sorted out
in no time. So it's not really a big issue.
In addition to that, we use other methods, like in cases where it involves civil issues, like issues of employment, issues of child abuse or molestation, or things that are not outrightly very grievous in terms of criminalities. We also use alternative dispute resolutions. We actually plays a role like negotiators. We go to meet the parties involved.
We
mediate to actually give lasting solutions to these things. And that has taken us to various sectors. We have gone to the police stations, we have gone to organizations, the companies where rights of employees were involved, were infringed upon, and by that means we have been able to sort out things that outrightly would have carried a very uphill task or a big picture. These are things.
Now this brings me to the issue of consumer rights advocacy. What's this your drive about?
Okay, the consumption is actually the essential part of production, and when you don't have consumers who are fit enough to consume your product, the whole production process is defeated. So the issue of consumer rights advocacy is all about educating both the manufacturers and the intended users of this end product, on what really is their rights and what they should do to curb instances of product liability, whereby there are faulty products, defective products, and the rest. So we are only there to educate these people, and also to tell them that it takes a concerted effort of both the employers and the relevant agencies, as well as consumers also, to put a stop to that. Actually, the consumers where the consumers play a role is in terms of reporting, to the relevant agencies, so that investigations can be carried out and issues like that are resolved without any party being hurt. That's all about what we do.
Yes, but you see, as much as I appreciate what you're doing, we are all familiar with the kind of system we find ourselves in.
Yes.
People have been known to consume expired tin foods, expired drinks.
Yes.
Probably after consuming it, you now find out, you suddenly check, or maybe you find out it tastes funny or something. You now check the expiry date and you see that it's actually an expired product. For crying out loud. How do we seek redress on all of these things?
You can actually seek redress through various means. It can actually be direct interaction with the company, the manufacturer.
How really is that?
It happens like, let me just take attention to the concept of product liability. Actually, the area of product and service liability tends to ensure that manufacturers, distributors, or providers of products and services are held responsible and liable for the defects those products cause. And this could be under negligence, strict liability, or breach of warranty. For in that kind of case, that actually shows that it could have been negligence of the company, of the manufacturer, or that the product was fundamentally defective. Where that occurs and there is a damage, what happens is that the first step is for the person to investigate. It could do that through the NAFDAC laboratory
as an individual,
or with our aid. That is why we step in. Such cases have been reported to us, so we serve as a link to actually represent such clients. So in such a case where that has been established, you get to the company, let them know the damage that this has caused. They can opt in for compensation, adequate compensation. But where they fail and there's good reason to actually enforce the right, we can enforce such rights in court. And in court, the concept might actually change, but the fundamental thing is that where the product is defective and it does not conform to the regulations set by the regulatory bodies, that could go in for strict liability penalty. So we want to a situation where the country, the judiciary should be more active, judicial activism, so that victims of defective products would not continue to suffer just because of the fact that they may not be able to establish the issues of the claim of negligence, which has been very, very difficult in most cases, like in the various cases in Nigeria, which has been very difficult to actually bring to light.
Now, when you talk about this, because I'm still looking at the peculiar situation we find ourselves in Nigeria, how many people really have this education that, they can complain when a product is expired? What is the, amount of education that is open to consumers, to let them know and enlighten them that these things, that they can actually, lodge complaints, and, these are the authorities to whom they can complain?
We actually are not here to, to speak against the government or manufacturers. But however, people rely so much on the government for information and security, And when it comes to the issue of consumer rights and protection, we have the Consumer Protection Council, which is a federal agency, federal parastatal, which is charged with the responsibility of overseeing that issues like this, like consumer complaints, where there are defective products and the rest, are attended to. However, one of the shortcomings is that people have not been properly educated. That's why people don't really know who to complain to and how to carry out their complaints, really. And you know that what the council does really is to investigate and also arrange for compensation packages for affected victims. So the agency actually in charge is the Consumer Protection Council.
Consumer Protection Council,
really, where people can complain to.
Recently, while carrying out my research, I have discovered that there are a lot of developments in place at the moment by the Consumer Protection Council, led by Mrs. Ife Umehi, in the issues of information to the consumers. As we all know, the consumer has 8 basic rights, which includes the right to information, right to safety, right to choose, and several other rights. So she has actually been ensuring that Nigerians get abreast with this fact, and also the areas of the responsibilities of NAFDAC, led by Dr. Paul Ori, and you have been very good records by the past administration, Professor Akuniyi. Now, the issues are that in most cases, I must also admit, is the fact that consumers are not really proactive. They actually have some cases like this, or they just, Nigeria can never get it right, or you cannot get your right enforced. They just shy away.
Because this is what has happened to other people in the past.
But the reality is that we should never give up. We have seen the ills. That is why we took it as a responsibility. We are poised and determined to ensure that we make a change. Actually coming to this platform, taking up this responsibility and the project, we are to ensure that we bridge that gap. But we cannot bridge the gap effectively if we do not have the encouragement and the proactive consent from the consumers themselves. We are not actually already there to cause confusion or be against the manufacturer. Where a manufacturer does something that is good, or a service provider, we thumb up. Where a consumer does bad, we thumb down. We are here to bridge the gap, and the main purpose is for national development.
Fantastic.
A quick one, people are actually scared of going to court. Really, they see the onerous tax, the rigors of going to court, and the protracted cases in our courts. But these issues can be resolved through mediation, alternative dispute resolution.
Between the consumer and the manufacturers or service providers.
So it's not all about
the court.
The court really. So there are issues that are arbitrable that can go through alternative dispute resolution.
There's still so much more we're going to talk about, because we're still going to look at the issue of labor and employment, and we're also going to look at a particular project that you guys are working on. But I want you to hold the thoughts on that, on all these issues. I want us to take a musical break now. let's take a breather on this discuss, and the show will continue after that. I have been discussing with Barrister Promise Asikpo and Barrister Etta Ojong of the Lagos Core Legal Aid Scheme. And basically, we've been talking of our rights as consumers, as individuals, and as human beings. The show continues after this musical break. Yes, it's still Morning Ride on the network service of the NTA. And so far we have been discussing our rights as human beings, our rights as consumers, our rights as Nigerians. And I still have with me my guests in the studios this morning talking about Barrister Promise Asikpo and Barrister Etta Ojong, of course, of the Lagos Core Legal Aid Scheme. But one very interesting thing is that these young men have actually passed out. Yes, they are no longer, Corpers, but really they are still very much involved in the provision of free legal aid services to people for whatever, rights it is that you believe have been tampered with, that, your rights have been infringed upon and all of that. These are the people that you can talk to, and you can be sure that they will see your case to a logical conclusion. Yes, before we went on the break, we were talking about consumer rights advocacy, and we've talked about, consumers and all of that. Let's also look at the issue of labor and employment safety standards advocacy that you guys are involved in. What's this all about?
Yeah, this actually is about the rights of employees. In the labor market, we have three major stakeholders. You have the government, you have the employers, and you have the employees. So these rights is the fact that someone who has given up his time for the production of labor and provision of service and everything should actually be properly compensated. His right should be secured, and should not be exposed to health hazards. Okay, Nigeria has been notorious, as I need to say, to the fact that they have been treating these issues with levity. Okay, and we've had several situations where workers have been exposed to various health hazards and disasters. It could just be, as a preamble, might just draw attention back to the situation that occurred in 2002 at Ikorodu, where factory workers were caught up in fire. Yes. Okay, and the owners of the company, the foreign owners of the company, were actually in their own houses after locking the factory, and these people were not rescued. So such shows the abysmal and scrupulous disposition of such manufacturers or such employers. So in such cases, that has given us the mandate to come in and intervene. So
when you talk about coming in to intervene, are you not trying to take up the duties of the Nigerian Labour Congress here?
What's there is that yes, the Labour Congress and various trade unions and the rest, most of them have not been able to meet the demands and cries of the people they seek to protect, of their workers and the rest. And also, occupational hazards occur daily in Nigeria. Yes. To be very honest, and we have statistics shows that up to like 200 fatalities occur daily.
200.
Yeah, occur daily in Nigeria, and from 2008 to 2010, it was reported that in the power sector alone, 400 fatalities occurred in those 2 years in the line of duty.
Wow.
And also we have other issues of minor injuries that could cause to absence of work for a very long time. For example, let's look at the fact of minor injuries and stress. For example, the number of people that take sick leave in a year, it affects the productivity of the firm or the employer.
Yes.
So because sometimes it's not as a result of the fault of the employers. Sometimes most employers have put in safety standards in their organizations, but the employees are negligent, or the employees also they constitute risk for other employees of the company because they don't abide by such safety procedures. For example, let's say we have the transport company, for example. The criteria for you to be a good driver is that you should be qualified in driving and a qualified driver and everything. So for example, there's a seat belt for you. There's a speed limit. You can, some organizations have speed limit. Yes, but you find out that these drivers, they just, they drive above the speed limit. some of them don't use proper safety gears, and they constitute risks for themselves and also for maybe the passengers they are transporting.
Yes.
So that is another aspect. It's not also on the employers alone, but the employees must adhere to lay down safety standards in their organizations.
Now you talked about talking about you, Barrister Promise.
Okay.
You mentioned the issue of, at least the one that comes to mind readily is the example of the Ikorodu, the unfortunate incident in Ikorodu in 2002. As we speak today in 2013, it looks like these foreigners are still having a field day in Nigeria. In fact, we even have more of them today, in the country. And they are carrying out really hazardous, employment services. Really hazardous employment rules are in place for, their employees and all of that. And it seems nothing is being done about it. What is the situation? I mean, with what you guys are doing, it doesn't seem like there is any effect.
Yeah, okay, great. That is a very sad and unfortunate situation. But I must bring to light the fact that I and my partner, we are currently in a particular organization, the Labor Justice Center for Labor Justice. Okay, it's led by a notable labor law activist, Ojong Etta, Ojong Etta. We have actually done a lot of painstaking activities to ensure that Nigeria can actually incorporate or sign into law certain new development in the legislation within this sector.
Yes.
Like you have in UK, there is a law that's of the 2007, the law which is the corporate manslaughter law and corporate homicide act of 2007. Okay. This gives the court, this gives the employer or the manufacturer or any person that the company the responsibility up to the stage of manslaughter and homicide where there is fatality in the process of their business. So where such things happens, that for example in Nigeria, if there was such a law in place, those people, the company and the directors, the major directors would have been responsible. They have been held liable for manslaughter at least or homicide, depending on the facts of the case. So these things are not actually in place, and so we are actually going to is the process. We hope to achieve this very, very soon, so that these things will be in place. And apart from that, they should